Everyone, so we got news in regards to Alex Caruso and Patrick Williams from the Chicago Bulls. So according to NBA insider Mark Stein, Alex Caruso and Patrick Williams are generating the most November trade curiosity from rival teams among all the Bulls. In fact, Stein noted Caruso would have a double-digit list of trade suitors if the Bulls decide to make him available, which they haven't. Now, Alex Caruso is very likely going to be traded if they end up trading a Zach LaVine, right? To me, Zach LaVine is the first domino to fall. If for whatever reason they don't end up trading LaVine, then I don't think that they're going to sell the farm on guys. Now, obviously, if they get some blow-away offer, then they will. But for the most part, Zach LaVine's going to be the first domino to fall. If they sell off Zach LaVine, then that's when I think you'll start seeing the fire sell. That's when Alex Caruso will become available. That's when DeMar DeRozan will become available. Vu, they'll try to move him. Drummond, all of those guys. All the pieces that hopefully the Lakers can snag some of those players. And many people want a Alex Caruso on the Los Angeles Lakers, want to see him return. I have mentioned this in the past, but I think this is a great time to kind of dedicate a video to it. And of course, I want to hear your thoughts and opinions, so let me know down in the comments below. Also, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed. But Alex Caruso, out of everybody on Chicago, makes the most sense for essentially every team in the league. He is one of the ultimate plug-and-play guys in the league. He gets after it on the defensive side. He's got good size, good strength for the type of player that he is. He's actually playing very well offensively this year. He's not taking a lot of shots, but Alex Caruso is really getting it done on the offensive side when he does take attempts. Right now, he's averaging a hair under 10 points per game on 61.5% shooting. 61.5% shooting. He is lighting it up when he has the opportunity to take shots. Again, not getting a ton of shots. This season, he's only averaging 5.4 field goal attempts, and he's also shooting a whopping 50% from three-point range, which is insane. I don't know how sustainable that is, but still, it's doing really good. But it's more so with Alex Caruso. It's more so about his just defense, being a point of attack guy, his versatility on the defensive side. He's a guy that every team in the league that is a fringe playoff team to a middle of the pack playoff team to a contender to a fringe contender. Basically any team that is good or halfway good or plan on being good this year, all very likely could want and use a guy named Alex Caruso. Patrick Williams is another guy that I could see a lot of teams wanting. He hasn't really lived up to the expectations, but he has been a solid player. Personally, I don't think Chicago will trade him again unless there is some just blow-away offer. But Alex Caruso, I definitely see him on a different team at some point. My concern is the Lakers are extremely limited on the assets that they can trade for a guy like Alex Caruso, especially compared to most of the teams in the league. The Lakers have 3 or 4 second-round picks that they could trade, but they only have one first. They do have a pick swap, but they only have either the 2029 or 2030 first that they can actually trade. You're not trading that for Alex Caruso. They're just not. They're not going to do it. It's not even worth it for them, right? To lose basically their last valuable trade chip on Alex Caruso. I love Alex Caruso. Alex Caruso would be huge on this Lakers team, but he's not going to give us big enough of an impact to where Alex Caruso is the piece that all of a sudden makes us a contender. He would make us a lot better, but he's not going to improve us to where we're all of a sudden night and day the best team in the league or anything like that. So it's not worth the gamble for just a pick. I've seen people throw out, oh, well, what about like a Gabe Vincent for an Alex Caruso when we throw in a couple seconds? Again, Chicago has to value that play. Like, why would the Lakers or why would Chicago want to trade Alex Caruso to the Lakers for basically a worse Alex Caruso and just a second-round pick when you have several teams that would probably give up a first-round pick for Alex Caruso because it's going to be a late pick, right? Like, you get some of these, like a team like the Warriors. I'm just going to use them as an example. I'm not saying the Warriors would even be interested in them. They probably would because they love guards, especially defensive guards. But, like, the Warriors pick will probably be somewhere in the 20s, right? So, like, they could afford to go and trade that pick to go get Alex Caruso, right? There are several teams, Sacramento, who will probably have a higher pick, could go and trade that pick to go get an Alex Caruso because they're trying to win now and within the next few years. So you have too much competition for Alex Caruso. The only way I see Alex Caruso coming to the Lakers is if the Lakers trade for him in a package trade, right? So like DeMar DeRozan. If the Lakers were to go and acquire DeMar DeRozan and also get Alex Caruso and like maybe an Andre Drummond or something like that, which is kind of the three pieces I've talked about heavily, DeMar DeRozan, Alex Caruso, Andre Drummond, because that's the only way I see the Lakers actually being able to go and acquire a Alex Caruso. And how would they do that? Glad you asked. The way that you supplement and offset the lack of assets and draft picks and you compete with the other teams is if we up the salary, now we can start including other players such as our young guys, right? If you just go trade for Alex Caruso, we have to match like the $10 million in salary. So yes, you could just go like Max Christie, Maxwell Lewis, and Jalen Hood-Schifino for Alex Caruso. But again, I would rather keep those guys for the upside, right? Like I would rather keep those guys in for the long term, right? Now, you could do like an Alex Caruso and Andre Drummond and maybe give like a Taurean Prince and then, a Maxwell Lewis. But I think you should go for a more impact player. If you get a guy like a DeMar DeRozan, well, now you can justify giving up the 2029 first. Maybe you even throw in that pick swap. Maybe you throw in 2 seconds, and then maybe you throw in like a Max Christie and a Jalen Hood-Schifino, right? So now what you did is you basically went and got the star. You essentially lump everything together, and hey, we were only going to trade you a first and 2 young guys for DeMar DeRozan, but if you give us Andre Drummond and Alex Caruso, well, then we'll throw in a Jalen Hood-Schifino and we'll throw in the pick swap. Because now you can kind of offset, and now you can kind of justify making the bigger power play. And now if you get Alex Caruso, DeMar DeRozan, and Andre Drummond, maybe you even position yourself, like, especially if you have to give up like a Rui Hachimura, maybe you go get a guy like a Torrey Craig, so that way you can move some of your guys playing the 3 over to the 4 more and have like a Torrey Craig to kind of fill in at that 2 spot, maybe even fill in at the small forward spot in time. Again, you could kind of mix and match guys, right? But the only way that the Lakers get, in my opinion, again, this is just my thoughts and opinions, but I think it's a very educated and calculated one, is you put a package together, not for Alex Caruso, but for Alex Caruso and these other players. Because now you can, one, justify giving up the assets to go and acquire those players, and now it becomes more enticing for Chicago, to where Chicago now looks at it as like, okay, so let's look at this for a second. We could get, say, a Rui Hachimura, get a D'Angelo Russell, 2 guys that are still young enough to be key foundation pieces. We can keep a Patrick Williams, right? So now we got D'Lo, Williams, Rui. If we can get a Max Christie, now we have our 2 guard of the future. So now we got D'Lo, Christie, Williams, Rui. Now all we need is a center. We got a Jalen Hood-Schifino, and we got, a pick and a pick swap for it. Like, that's a haul for those guys, right? Because, again, Alex Caruso is great, but he is a role guy. He is a rotation guy. He's not a star. He's not a superstar. DeMar DeRozan is 34 years old on an expiring deal, and I don't think that many teams are going to go and try to trade for DeMar. I do think he will have a market, but I think it'll be limited. And then get an Andre Drummond, who, again, I could see teams wanting him, but I don't think the market's going to be huge. So, but for the Lakers, all 3 of those guys collectively would be huge for the Lakers. Now you got a guy in Andre Drummond who could play the backup center position. He's more reliable and more dependable than a Jackson Hayes. He also just gives you another big body that you can throw it like the inevitable Jokic matchup. He's also an excellent rebounder, so that would help in the rebounding department. You could play him alongside Anthony Davis. They have chemistry. They have understanding. I know some people are like, why would we want Drummond back. Like, you know, a lot of people have this idea that he was terrible for us, which he wasn't. Like, we probably win the championship if Anthony Davis doesn't get hurt. Andre Drummond averaged a double-double for us when he came to the Lakers. Like, he was good for the Lakers. He just wanted a max contract, and he thought he was still a franchise guy. I mean, Andre Drummond spoke about this himself in a camp thing. The videos online where he talked about how, like, he let his ego get in the way. But now he's older, he's more mature, he's understood his role, and he's been one of the best backup big men in the league the last few years. So you go get a guy like that, that would be huge. And then Alex Caruso just gives you another point of attack defensive guy. Could you imagine Alex Caruso, Cam Reddish, Jared Vanderbilt, and Anthony Davis? Good luck scoring on that. Good luck scoring on that unit. Seriously. And then you could throw out, like, you could have Cam Reddish, you could have Alex Caruso, and you could have Jared Vanderbilt with Anthony Davis, and then have, like, LeBron James just slice and die, just have everybody cutting. Shooting would be a little bit of a concern, but if Alex Caruso can continue to shoot 50% on, you know, a handful of attempts per game, and if Reddish continues to shoot 36.5%, 37%, and you get Jared Vanderbilt, if he could get to 35 to 36%, you'd be respectable enough. But just defensively, you'd be a juggernaut. That'd be ridiculous. But again, like, I love the idea of Alex Caruso on the Lakers. I do. But if we're trying to trade for him, straight up, don't see it happen. There's just too much competition. And the Lakers aren't in a position for competition. So I think a guy like DeMar DeRozan is about as safe of a bet to be on the Lakers as possible. If you look at all of the possible trade targets, he makes the most sense. Because again, he's a free agent. We know that he's going to want to be a Laker. He's talked about it repeatedly. We know he would re-sign with the Lakers. I'm not saying he wouldn't re-sign with anywhere else, but there's also very few teams that I think DeMar DeRozan makes sense for, right? Like, how many teams are looking at DeMar DeRozan going, that's the missing piece. That's the guy we need that puts us over the top. Not very many. I do think a team like Miami makes a lot of sense for DeMar DeRozan. I do think if Miami were to trade for DeMar, he might stay there. But I do think DeMar, the pool will be limited for him, so I think he's most realistic. Zach LaVine, I don't think we have a shot with him. I just think, again, competition. When you're looking at the landscape and you're looking at pieces that we can get, you have to factor in what will the competition look like, right? I got the nickname of Laker Damas because I was batting 1,000 last year for trades. I mean, the Rui trade, I talked about it literally hours before it happened. The D'Lo trade, the Jared Vanderbilt, getting Jared Vanderbilt, right? Like, again, I had a very good run last year. Not an insider. I'm just a fan like everyone else, right? I'm just the guy. But I look at the landscape. I look at what players are likely to be available and won't have a ton of competition if they became available, right? Alex Caruso is going to be one of those guys that have a lot of competition. I'm not saying that the Lakers won't be able to get him. Maybe Alex Caruso pushes and says, hey, if you're going to trade me, I prefer the Lakers. And maybe Chicago would oblige, right? It's very possible. Or maybe the Lakers do pony up. I don't know. But I think realistically, don't get your hopes up on the Lakers trading for Alex Caruso. Don't. Right? If you're somebody that's like, oh, Alex Caruso's coming to Lakers, don't hold your breath. Again, it very well could happen. I'm not an insider. I'm just the guy that makes videos that is blessed enough to be able to have conversations with you all. But I have a pretty good feel for this stuff just based on the situation and environment of the NBA. And Alex Caruso having reports come out about him that say double-digit teams are interested in him is bad news for the Lakers. Bad news for the Lakers. Because I'm sure the Lakers aren't the only team he wants to play on, and he's still under contract for another year. So teams might go, hey, you know, he's a piece that could really help us this year. At worst, we have him for a year and a half. We're not going to have to give up a fortune. We give up this year's first. It's going to be like the 25th pick in this year's draft. We're not going to get a guy better than Caruso anyway, and we're in win now mode. Some team is going to pony up what they need to for Alex Caruso. But anyway, like I said, this is a discussion, so I pass the question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? How do you feel? Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? You know, again, I'm just a guy. Love to have conversations. Love to have these talks. So join it down in the comment section below.